Hey y'all, Big Tim here. Thanks for tuning in for this episode of Old School and Bass with Big Tim. So we haven't given you an update in quite a while, so we thought today might be the day. And partially because of, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the fact that I'm a little uh, saddened by the death of Forrest Wood. You know, Forrest Wood is he's a pioneer in this industry, and just a friend to everybody that's ever known him. He's a super nice guy. He's been in every Bassmaster Classic I can remember being at. He's always got a line of people wanting to meet him, get photographs and everything else. And I don't even care if you run a Ranger boat or not. Most people know who Forrest Wood is, and they want to get a picture with him. They want to shake his hand. They want to talk to him. And, he's gracious enough that he will do that with everyone that comes by. Men, women, kids. I mean, he was just a super, super nice guy. Now, Forrest, I think I read that he lived to be 88 years old, which is a nice age. It's still sad to see someone go like that. Like I said, he was a pioneer. He developed Ranger boats. I shouldn't say developed. He started the company. He started Ranger boats. And they were the first boat company to have a functioning live well with aerators and everything else. And, that was big. That really helped the catch and release philosophy started by BASS back in the early 70s. So he was instrumental to making tournament fishing what it is today. I mean, without him, there'd be no FLW. That's why it's named FLW. A lot of people now think it's Fishing League Worldwide, but it used to be named after him, Forrest L. Wood. The Forrest Wood Cup was the cup that they won at the end of the year for their end of the year classic tournament. So Forrest Wood was a real important person in the sport. He will greatly be missed. It'll definitely be different for anybody that goes to the Bassmaster Classic this year, and Forrest Wood won't be there. Even last year he was there, and I think he was in the Vexus booth, and I lined up with some other people and talked to him for a minute, shook hands, and it was really kind of cool. So I was really happy to get that opportunity again last year. Not that it was my only time. I've probably talked to Forrest Wood probably about 7 times, had my picture taken with him a couple times. If I can find it, I'll put it here. But yeah, really great guy, and he'll definitely be missed. Along with, and I never talked about this back in November when Jerry McInnes died. We lost Jerry back the first part of November before Thanksgiving, and again, what a pioneer to the sport. He was the first. Well, I don't know if he was the first, but definitely one of the first guys to televise fishing, to have fishing shows on TV. I remember my dad telling me when he was young, he enjoyed running home from school to be able to watch the fishing hole. That was a big deal, So he was definitely a pioneer in the sport as well. In the later years, he goes on to buy BASS and, their television footage of the Bassmaster Elite Series and everything else. So, without Jerry McInnes, who knows where we would be. So those two guys will be sorely missed. So like I said, whether you're in a Ranger boat, whether you belong to Bass, if you're a bass fisherman, you know of Forrest Wood and you know of Jerry McInnes. Great, great guys. So on a happier note, something else happened over the weekend. John Cox won the first FLW, what do they call it now? FLW Pro Tour Series. I don't know what it is. They're sponsored by Tackle Warehouse, which is kind of cool. But it is the upper echelon of FLW before you get into Major League Fishing. So, congratulations to John Cox. It was on San Rayburn Lake in Texas. And if you know John Cox, he's from Florida. And he said it was a little different in the fact that he's not one that starts the year off fast. And I tell you, if you haven't had a chance to watch it, I watched it the other day on YouTube. FLW's got a little story where it's called Sleeping in Late to Fish with John Cox. And the guy's attitude is phenomenal. I was rooting for him Well, I've actually been rooting for him for years, but definitely at the beginning of the season here, I was hoping he could win something right away. And bam, there it is. Why? Because he's showing the world and all the younger kids and even us old guys, he's showing us that you don't have to have 4 graphs in your boat, that you don't have to have 2 power poles, that you don't have to have the latest and greatest, fastest boat and biggest motor and all this. And he just goes out with his Crestliner, which definitely is not one of the fastest boats. It's an aluminum boat. But he's going out in that Crestliner and just getting the job done. And it's just awesome. This guy's a shallow water fisherman. He doesn't have a lot of fancy electronics. In fact, a couple years ago, he fished the whole tour without any electronics at all. And that's pretty cool. That's amazing. So I love the fact that he's showing you that you don't have to have the latest and greatest to be able to compete. It's all about work ethic. Although his sleeping in thing didn't really show much about work ethic, but you know, it is. It's about work ethic. It's about preparation. Yeah, there's some luck involved and a lot of skill. If you're willing to do it, you can do it without having, you know, 4 graphs. You can do it without having all the power poles. You can do it without having, you know, a $100,000 bass boat these days. And that's awesome because we're teaching so many kids that they have to have all of these things or they are at a disadvantage. And you don't necessarily have to. Most of the places that I fish and most of the tournaments that I fish in, most of those things don't even come in handy. I still don't have power poles on my boat. You know, I've got 2 graphs and most of the time I don't even use them. I like to see how fast I'm going, but that's about it. So congratulations to John Cox. I'm really thrilled that that he won that tournament. And I'm really hoping that he gets another win this year on the Bassmaster Elite Series because he's going to do the Bassmaster Elite Series and he's going to do the FLW Pro Series, Pro Tour Series, whatever they call it. It's just so weird, all the different names anymore. So since we're talking about it, the other thing is Major League Fishing, the owners of FLW now, they changed the rule system a little bit. They're going to have a variable weight minimum. And for the first tournament at Eufaula on the Georgia-Alabama line, the minimum weight's going to be 2 pounds. And that's pretty cool. That might make it a little bit more interesting. You're not seeing a bunch of dinkers win the tournament. I did watch every show that come on over the winter time, and I'm still watching them. I record them, and I find some time to watch them. And going back to the Red Crest, you know, watching Edwin Evers wasn't, I mean, it was kind of neat, but it really wasn't all that exciting. However, I did get excited when, what's the boy's name? I want to say Berg, but that's not right. One boy was winning his division or his time frame, whatever you call it, his little segment, his round. Yeah, one boy was winning his round, and he basically got on one spot, locked down the power poles, and caught like 50 fish off of one spot. And that was really incredible to see because most of them were, you know, at least 1.5 pound, 2 pound fish, and they were eating a frog. So, you know, topwater action is pretty cool. And wish I could remember that guy's name for you, but he was a new young guy. I'd heard his name before, but not familiar enough to be able to just spit it out. Of course, after I get done making this video, I could probably snap my fingers and come up with it for you. It's the way my brain works. But anyway, the one thing I was totally displeased with the Bass Pro Tour was the fact that there's no mention of, you know, what baits they use to catch the fish and everything else. And if it is, it's very small. I did watch one of the Cup series, and I'll tell you, the Cups, the Bass Pro Tour, that's confusing as anything. I can't tell what's what. It all looks the same guys involved. I guess the difference is on the Bass Pro Tour, they use their own boats, and on the Cup series, they use the little 18-footers with the 150s, I guess, is the main difference, and they don't have their own personal jerseys. But I watched one where Brett Hite actually won his round, and at the very end of it, they were doing a bait spotlight. And I thought that was pretty cool. except for the fact that he couldn't mention the names of the bait. He holds up what I know to be an evergreen shower blow and says, I had to use this stick bait, and then I had to use this vibrating jig. And of course, the vibrating jig was a jackhammer, his signature jackhammer. And that's how they did it. Vibrating jig and pencil popper, not jackhammer, vibrating jig, and evergreen shower blow, pencil popper. At least use the names. So that makes me wonder why Evergreen, who makes the shower blow and who also makes the jackhammer, who also sponsors Brett Hite, why would they want to sponsor Brett Hite anymore if he can't even say the names of the lures that he's using? So that'll be interesting. I'll have to see how that works out. It reminds me of the old FLW days, where if you weren't using something that FLW approved, you couldn't talk about it. And I think that's kind of a hamper on the sport. Now, I know you've heard me say I want people to be able to understand that the generic form, but I also want the name and the generic. I really like when people say, I was throwing this jackhammer, but you probably could have used another bladed jig. That's really cool. I use jackhammer because I'm sponsored by them, but you might use some other vibrating jig, or you know what I'm talking about. But to not be able to say the name, I just don't know what that's going to do for the sport. So, one other thing as far as updating goes. After you see this episode, we will be celebrating 1 year. I started this YouTube channel on February 2nd last year. The next episode that you're going to see will be on February 3rd. And that's a fun one. That's going to be a Truth Behind the Trophy series, which I hope you guys are digging those. This one's going to be coming to you from Craig's Creek. And it's a little different. But we've been having a bunch of different ones. Anyway, 1 year. It's amazing to me how far we've come. I never anticipated this. And I can't say it's blown up because it definitely hasn't blown up. But, for me, I'm truly impressed that I've got 216, I think now, subscribers who have watched my videos a total of 12,000 times and have spent about 1,000 hours watching me talk about lures and baits and fishing and stuff like that. So thank you to every one of you, all my subscribers, all you guys that are watching. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And hopefully the year to come is going to bring a lot more excitement. I know last year it was important for me. I wanted to get you guys some good footage of the Whopper Plopper because it's a real exciting bait. And I think I did that for you. I think I got you some really good topwater footage from the Whopper Plopper. This year, I'm hoping to do some other things. I want to get you some good footage on jerkbait. I plan on fishing some earlier, cooler trips this year. So maybe we can get you some great jerkbait footage. Also, always want to get you some more topwater footage. I'd love to get on some frog footage, but I think the only place I might be able to catch some fish on a frog fairly close to here would be Cedar Creek, and I went there twice last year and didn't do so good. So maybe this year we'll have some redemption and get a frog bite down at Cedar. Along with other topwater. I also want to get some more smallmouth involved this year. Some Lake Cumberland smallmouth. Maybe even go to Dale Hollow again this year. And I want to get some more Ohio River smallmouth involved in there. And one other thing I shouldn't even let this out of the bag yet, but I haven't even talked to the fella yet about this, but I am going to try to do a little, one, maybe even two different shoots this year with a young fella that we're going to have. I'm going to try to, hopefully he'll agree to it, an old school versus new school. I got a young kid who's about 19, really good fisherman that I'd like to see the two of us in the boat together. We might even do like ultimate match fishing rules where we switch ends of the boat or something. I don't know. But I'm hoping we can get something like that going. You're going to see a lot of the same faces you saw last year. You're going to see Joey. You're going to see Bubba for sure. He's going to be going. And hope to get a couple trips out with Jake again this year. So that's what we got going. One thing we don't have going this year, I will not be going to the Triton Owners Tournament. My dad and I have talked about it. It's a little too hard on him physically, and to go down there and spend all that money. Now, granted, yeah, I did win $500 on the door prize, which was nice, but Dad and I used to go down there. It was a little vacation for us. It was a little time to go down and catch some fish. And last year, after not catching hardly any fish, spending a lot of money and everything else, we've kind of had to rethink it. So probably will not see me at the Triton Owners Tournament. I say probably because you never know, something might come up and Dad says, let's do it anyway. But for now, we're not going to the Triton Owners Tournament. So that's what we're looking for this year. Hopefully we've got a lot of good stuff coming up for you. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Old School and Bass with Big Tim.